Hello there, my name's Henrik. Glad you can join us live. This is the 9th day of a 10-day series where I'll be teaching about programming. In this video, I'm going to be teaching about how I got better at programming. I'm going to share about my story, my journey, and hopefully it encourages you on your programming journey and how you can get better at programming and give you some ideas on how to get better. And if you haven't downloaded it, I have a guide called my Personalized Finance App Programming Guide. So it's a guide for people who want to go from no coding experience to building their first app. And it's a 12-step programming guide. It goes step by step on, it teaches you how to take your credit card transactions from your credit card company and then teaches you how to parse it and categorize it into different budget categories so that you can see how much you're spending in different budget categories that you have for the month. And I think it's a fun app that you can play with, and it's actually practical, so you can actually use it in your everyday life. I was able to use it, or I use it in mine, and that's the motivation for me to program it, because I wanted to build something that I will actually use. So hopefully this would be a fun app for you. If you have no coding experience, or even if you're just a beginner, I think this would be a good guide for you. The link is in the description, and if you download it and pay attention to what it says, then you will for sure learn some fundamental programming concepts. Also, before we begin, at the end of this lesson or my talk, I plan to open it up for Q&A. So if you have any questions about what I say, feel free to ask at the end. All right? Okay, so how did I get better at programming? What's my personal journey in terms of my programming, how I got better? So I learned programming in university, and I also taught it in university. But I think I started to get really good at it when I got into my job. But I'm going too fast. I'll talk about that later. But the first thing that got me better at programming was I started building my own projects. So that's number one. Build your own projects. And even when I was a 12-year-old, I was coding in TI-83 because my friends had TI-83 pluses. They had the apps button, and they had this way, I think it's called Mirage. You can actually download games into your TI-83 plus. But I didn't have TI-83 plus. I just had the TI-83 because my mom, she didn't buy the plus one. She just bought the regular one. And I was sad. So what I did was, why don't I just program my own games? Because I can't get the games that my friends had, I'll just program my own game. So I had these mini projects, or these not mini projects, they were actually big, long projects. And every time I built a new program, I had a new idea for another program, and a new idea for another program. And I just had this long list of programs, and it became like a snowball effect. I started to get better at programming, and I can type really fast in the TI-83. I became really fast at typing. And I bet I could still get a TI-83 and I could program really fast. But even fast forward to when I was in university, I was even the way I learned in my class was they gave us projects. So every few weeks they gave us a project. So I think we had 4 projects in my one class, in one of the classes, and then I had 2 projects in this other class. And I think those are how I got really good at how I got better handle of C. I learned in C, so I got better at C through those projects. And it's one thing to just watch the professor teach and tell you what each lines of code does and just some basic exercises for homework. But when you have an actual project, it's totally different. It makes you think about a bigger goal that you have in mind. And so I think that's how I really got good, or how I got better during that time in university. But also, even when I got into my job, I learned I got comfortable in other languages. For example, I learned Plotly, which is a graphing library in Python. And I built my own project because I was doing a prototype application for one of my projects at work. So I got not really good, but I became better at programming through that experience. And then also in my job, I was one of the Android app people. So I got a lot of experience in Java from that. And we used Android Studio and also used Eclipse. So I got a lot of experience that way. And then fast forward to now that I left that company, but now currently last year, what I started doing, I started getting into no code tools, and I learned this tool called AppGyver. I also learned Bubble.io. You can look that up. Those are two no coding tools that you can build an app without a lot of code. And I had these mini projects. One of them was I had a project in AppGyver where I wanted to create a devotional app because I'm a Christian. So I wanted to make an app so that I could help with my devotional life. So I can read the Bible and make sure I'm praying for people. So I have like a list of people that I pray for. And I put it in the app, and it gives me at random who to pray for every day. So I've been doing that. And also I built another app in AppGyver for options trading because I wanted to automate my options trading. So it doesn't automate the options trading, but it tells me when to do certain contracts or when to do certain kinds of contracts and options. So that's how I really got better at programming in terms of those different tools and those different programming languages. And also say this, there's that satisfaction that you get when you finish a project or when you have a really working code, and it becomes addicting. You have this feature you want to implement in your program or in your project, and then you're like, oh, I want to do that when I get home. And that was me. Like I would wake up and then I would say, oh, I want to put this in my app, and then I would code it. And then before I go to sleep, there's this thing. Even when I'm at work, I have ideas for things I can implement in my app. And then I'm like, okay, let me code that later. I'm not gonna code personal stuff while I'm at work. But I'm gonna code that when I get home. So I write a note like, this is what I want to do when I get home. So it becomes addicting. And I also think for those of you who play Minecraft, you kind of get a sense of what I'm getting at, because you have your own projects in Minecraft, and then you have these goals, and then once you accomplish the goal, it's nice to like just look at your project, look at your application, look at your program, and it's fully functional. And then if there's a bug, there's something there that's off, there's something tugging in you that you want to fix it right away. And so that really helps you in terms of your programming skills, and also gives you good experience in programming. All right, so that's the first one. Build your own projects. I built my own projects, so that's how you get better. Second one is find a programming job or internship. So I kind of alluded to this already. So if you want to get better at programming, I highly recommend you find a job or an internship. And many of you are probably thinking like, that's the ultimate goal, right? I want to get good at programming so that I can get a job. I think for now, what I would recommend is you can build your own projects that you can find online. You can see even my own application, my programming guide, that will give you your first project. If you haven't started building your own project, you can build your own project there. And then you can look online and see other projects you can build, stuff that's practical, stuff that you can actually use in your everyday life. I think those are things that you can do that would be really fun. Or if you want to do a game, you can do that too. And then from there you have a portfolio of projects, and then you find an internship, and then when you have an internship, find a job. I see a lot of people online, they have these projects, and then they immediately start applying to jobs, like hundreds of jobs, and they don't get any response back. I think a lot of employers, if you have an internship, that'll help you a lot, because in my job, my first job, I didn't really have any education in my jobs, that company, other than programming, but I had an internship that was related to what that company was doing. So so they hired me right away. When I went to the interview, it seemed like they're already planning to hire me just because of my internship. And actually, when I went to the job fair, they circled the internship that I had. And that's how I got the interview in the first place. Well, anyways, that's another topic. I'm supposed to be talking about how to teach about how to get better at programming. So yeah, find a job or an internship. And the reason why is because you spend so much time at work, right? You spend 8 hours a day, and then 40 hours a week, and it adds up. You get a lot of experience when you have an actual internship or a job. And the for me, one of the things that helped me in my job with my programming is that in my job they asked me many times to program something that I had no clue what to do. So I had to do a lot of googling. I had to, like Plotly for example, I had no idea what I never heard of Plotly when I was in university, but in my job they said they wanted to code in, I don't know if they told me they wanted me to code in Python. They told me they wanted it in Python, but I don't know if they told me about Plotly. But anyways, so it forces you to do stuff that you don't think you can do, and also forces you to do things that you never heard of. That it kind of teaches you this job internship teaches you what's out there and what you can learn, and it also forces you to learn things that you don't want to do or learn. Like one of the projects I had was video streaming, and I had to program a prototype application that will help if there's a quality, like if the network is bad, it will lower the quality of the stream. So I had to code that, but I would not ever code that in my own personal life. But because I was forced to do it, I had to learn how to do it. So it forces you to learn things that you're not really interested in. And I think that sometimes it can that would really help you make you be a well-rounded programmer. And also, when I was at my job, you also learn from code bases that they give you. They would give you, I think I was exposed to maybe like 5 different code bases, and I could see what kind of things that previous programmers did, and I could see where did they mess up. And actually, I was handed a code base when I got to my new job, and I could already see how how messed up the code was. It was like there's a lot of things that are not really congruent, or not, it doesn't really flow well. But anyways, the point is you get a code base, and then you can see how other people code, and you're working with other people's code. And I think in the beginning, I was learning a lot about how to design a good code. Like a lot of the code that I was given was like production level code. So I was able to learn a lot just by observing how did the previous programmer code this. And also at my job, I learned a lot of programming tools. So that's something you don't learn much in courses, is that I don't know if they teach you this, but there are a lot of tools like Git and SVN. So those are like essential for programmers. Those are just version control programs that will help you to make sure that if you mess up your code, you can revert back to an older version. It has a version history for your program. So it's really useful if you have never heard of that. And also I got exposed to the Atlassian suite, and I got exposed to Jira, Confluence, Bitbucket, and these are used in, I think most companies will use these, and these are helpful for you if you're planning to find a job or an internship. If you know these tools, that's a big plus, because that's probably what they're using as well. And also, I also learned how to work in Linux and how to use Bash. So I got a lot of exposure to those things because of my job. And those are not programming per se, but those are platforms, those are tools that you can use that will help you in your programming and make you a better programmer overall. And then the last thing about the job and the internship is you get to interact with people face to face, and you can design things together. A lot of times you work with a team, and then you can bounce ideas back and forth. Oh, how do we want to implement this feature? This is an idea I have, how I would code it. And then they could respond back, say, no, I don't think that would be feasible because of this. And then you see the blind spots you have in your own thinking process in terms of how you program. So it's really essential that I think it would be really good for you to have that, have people that you interact with that will help you become a better programmer, and not just people that you interact with online, but people in face to face. I know our world is going more and more digital, and more people are going online to do stuff, but I think there's, at least I'm just sharing my experience, it's helpful to have that face-to-face interaction and actually talk to people, bounce ideas. I guess you can do that over the phone. Maybe that's the future, but having that exposure to people face-to-face, or even just phone-to-phone, that'll really help you in your programming journey. And this kind of leads into my last point. So my second point was find a programming job or internship. That really helped me become a better programmer. And the last one I kind of alluded to this already, is I worked alongside people who are better than me. Obviously, I was entering the workforce as an entry level engineer, and I got exposed to more senior level programmers, and they taught me so much. They taught me so much. So there was one project in particular where we were developing a product, and a lot of the programmers there were more senior, were maybe like currently like what I am right now, but they were older people, and they would teach me a lot, and we had to do these code reviews, and this was my first time having my code reviewed by somebody else. So I would have these code reviews. I would write down how I would code, and then the more senior programmers would look at my code, and then they would tear it up to shreds. They would say, "Oh, this line is bad because of this. This line is bad." And I learned a lot. Like I learned a lot about even coding conventions. Like instead of using tabs, you should use spaces. And I can talk about that in another video. But it's really useful if you code everything in spaces rather than tabs. And maybe there's a debate online about this, but I'm on the side that you should use 4 spaces instead of tabs. I think that really helpful. And there was even one time I was doing I was trying to code something with regex, regular expression, right? Regex. And I coded it. I spent like a week coding it. And then the senior level programmer, he was trying to teach me. He was trying to push me in the right direction. And then eventually I submitted for code review, and then he deleted my code, and then he coded it himself with just like a few lines of code. And I was like in shock. I was like, whoa, so that's what he meant, or that's how he was thinking to code it. So I learned a lot just from that, and it even encouraged me, or like it pressured me, I guess, in a sense, or gave me accountability that I need to not just slap some code together, but I need to have a really well thought out code when I code. And I learned a lot that if you make really sloppy code, you will introduce a lot of bugs into your code. So I learned a lot of that through the more senior level programmers. And then last thing is there was an engineering mentor in my later job. I had actually no, it was the same job. But anyways, even in my current job, I have these more senior level. I'm a principal engineer, but I have more senior level engineers who are teaching me and giving me pointers on how to program. But anyways, there was this engineer who would ask me really tough career questions, and he would guide me like how to think programmatically. So he was really key in helping me have more confidence in building my own applications. I would think to myself, how do I program this? And he would say, well, obviously, if you're going to program this, you need to have this, right? And then you need to have this. And I said, what else do you need to have? And then he would guide me through, and I was able to code my own prototype application for one of our projects just by the way he was coaching me. And he also helped me think about my career goals. And so it's easy as a programmer, or as easy as a person in general, not to have really career goals, but to just kind of coast along, be like kind of lukewarm in your career and just go with the flow. But this engineer, he was teaching me. He was saying, so where do you see yourself in 5 years? What do you think about your future? Are you getting enough experience in your programs? Are you learning a lot? Those are really important questions that I had. And he even encouraged me to look for a new job. We were in the same job together, and he was saying, oh, of course, I enjoy working with you. I'd love to have you. But I think also you should also look for a new job, because you've been at this company for a long time. And I think it's good to have good experience in different company cultures. That's kind of the words he imparted to me. And I thought about it. And so all that to say is you learn a lot from working people who are obviously better than you. And it's kind of like with basketball. I play basketball, and of course you can't get better at basketball if you just play with the same people all the time. You have to play with random people. You have to play with people who are better than you, and they push you and encourage you, and they teach you and they coach you. And so likewise with programming, to get better at programming, you need to be working alongside people who are better than you. And that doesn't necessarily mean you have to find a job, but I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to You can only do that in a job. You can also do it online through online communities. I think Reddit is a good example. You can type in questions in Reddit, and I've seen a lot of more senior level programmers who are answering these basic questions. And I'm also one of those people who also help give advice to new programmers. So having not coding in a vacuum, but coding with other people, that would be really helpful. All right, so that's my three how I got better at programming. The first one is I built my own projects. The second one is I got a programming job, internship. I actually got an internship first and then a job. And then the third one is I work alongside people who are more senior than me, people who are better than me, and they taught me, they coached me, and they trained me. All right, so let's open up for Q&A. So, do you guys have any questions? I'd love to open up for questions. And yeah, which one of these things got you thinking? Which one of these things are you currently doing to get better at programming? Leave a comment or leave it in the chat. Mention what are you doing to get better at programming, and what kind of programming language are you learning right now, and what kind of application are you working on right now? I would love to hear your thoughts, and even your thoughts on how your programming job search process. I would love to hear about that as well. Leave that in the comments or in the chat if you have any questions. And if you haven't downloaded it already, I've got a programming guide called my Personalized Finance App Programming Guide. It's a step-by-step programming guide. If you haven't heard me at the beginning of the live, it's a step-by-step programming guide. It'll teach you how to build your first app from no coding experience to building your first app. And like I said, this is how you get better at programming. You have projects, applications, and personal projects you want to work on. All right. So if that's it, thank you for joining today. I will be teaching again tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on this channel. And the last talk I'll give is about the essential skill that every programmer must have. So what is it? Check out tomorrow to hear what it is. All right.